On October 9, 2024, a 2008 Toyota Camry pulled into my bay with 387,000 miles on the odometer. The owner was apologizing before he even got out of the car. He said it had been running rough lately, and he understood if I told him the engine was finally done. I looked under the hood, pulled the dipstick, listened to it idle for 30 seconds, and asked him one question that completely changed his face. Today, I am revealing the simple oil change trick that keeps Toyota engines running like new for 400,000 miles, and why the modern owner's manual is quietly setting your engine up to fail. That Camry was not dying. It had a loose plug wire, a 5-minute fix. But what stunned me was not the easy repair. It was the inside of that engine. When I peeked behind the oil cap with a flashlight, the metal was tan and clean. No varnish, no sludge, no crusty black film that almost every other car at that mileage carries like a fingerprint. The owner had owned the car since new. And when I asked him my one question, he answered without hesitation. 5,000 miles. Always. Even when the manual told me 10. That is the entire trick. That is the whole secret. And it sounds so boring that most drivers will scroll past it without ever realizing it is the single most important thing they could do for their engine. So let me tell you why a sentence that simple has the power to save you thousands of dollars, and why the people who own the longest living Toyotas almost never argue about it. I have been working on Toyotas for over 2 decades. I have torn down 2 AZ engines that grenaded at 90,000 miles. I have pulled apart 2 GR-V6 engines that lost timing covers to sludge. I have also seen the 1MZ, 1ZZ, 2AR, and 2GR engines cross 300,000 and 400,000 miles, still pulling like they were brand new. The difference between the engines that died young and the ones that refused to quit is not luck. It is not climate. It is not which dealership you bought from. It is one variable, repeated thousands of times over the life of a car. And it lives in the oil pan. Here is what almost no one explains to Toyota owners. Around 2010, manufacturers across the industry began extending recommended oil change intervals dramatically. Cars that used to be serviced every 3,000 or 5,000 miles were suddenly being told they could go 10,000 miles. Toyota was one of the loudest voices in that shift. The justification was real. Full synthetic oils had genuinely improved. Engines were built tighter. Sensors were smarter. On paper, 10,000 miles became defensible. But here is the part the marketing never mentions. That interval is calibrated for an engine that lives the perfect life. A long highway commute every day, stable climate, clean fuel, no idling, no towing, no short trips to the grocery store and back. The kind of life almost nobody actually drives. The moment your real-world driving deviates from that lab fantasy, the oil starts dying faster than the schedule assumes. And because nothing dramatic happens when it does, you never feel it, you never see it, you never get a warning. The engine just quietly begins to age faster than it should. European researchers ran controlled testing on extended oil change intervals around 9,000 miles and found something that should disturb every Toyota owner. Protective additives in the oil collapse significantly between 7,500 and 9,000 miles. Where metals like chromium begin spiking, viscosity degrades in measurable, repeatable patterns. That is not internet folklore, that is laboratory data. And it confirms what every shop owner who has cracked open a high-mileage engine already knows in their bones. The oil that comes out at 10,000 miles is not the same fluid that went in. By that point, it is closer to liquid sandpaper than lubricant. I have personally torn down Toyota engines that were religiously serviced at 10,000-mile intervals, using the exact oil specified by the dealer. The cylinder heads looked like they had been baked in soy sauce. There was sludge in the valley, carbon caked around the variable valve timing actuators. Oil galleries were narrowed by black gum. Those engines had not been abused. They had been maintained exactly the way the manual told the owner to maintain them. They still failed at 180,000 miles. Meanwhile, on the same bench, I have torn down engines from owners who refused to extend their interval past 5,000 miles. Same year, same model, same oil brand in many cases. The internals looked almost factory fresh. The variable valve timing components moved freely. The pickup tube screen was clean enough to see through. Every single one of those owners told me some version of the same story. A grandfather, an uncle, an old mechanic told them once when they were young, "Change it every 5,000 miles, no matter what the book says." They listened. The engine never punished them. This is the part where most explanations stop. They tell you to change your oil more often and move on. But that is not the trick. That is 1/3 of the trick. The other two pieces are what separate the engines that hit 200,000 miles from the engines that quietly cross 400,000 miles, still drinking the same fuel they did on day one. The second piece is heat. Most people change their oil cold, or after letting the engine sit for hours. They think they are being safe. They are not. Cold oil is sleeping oil. The contaminants that the detergent package fought all week to keep suspended slowly settle to the bottom of the pan as the engine cools. Fuel dilution, water vapor, microscopic carbon particles, and worn metal all begin to drift toward whatever is lowest and stickiest. When you pull the drain plug cold, a meaningful percentage of that residue stays glued to the pan, around the windage tray, and inside the oil galleries. When you drain the oil hot, those contaminants are still suspended. The oil is thinner, it moves faster, it carries garbage out with it instead of leaving it behind for the next service. Every reputable Toyota master technician I have ever spoken with does it the same way. Drive the car for 15 to 20 minutes, park it, wait just long enough to safely get under it without burning your hands, pull the plug. The oil pours out fast and dark, and it keeps draining for a long time, because the heat lets the last residual film actually release from the pan walls. That single change in technique pulls measurably more contaminant out of the engine every single service. Multiply that across 100 oil changes over the life of a car, and you start to understand why some engines look factory clean at 350,000 miles, while others look like a charcoal grill at 150,000 miles. The third piece is the filter. This is where Toyota owners make the most expensive mistake of all, without even realizing it. Every modern Toyota oil filter, whether it is the older spin-on style or the newer cartridge style, contains very specific internal engineering. The bypass valve opens at a precise pressure. The anti-drainback valve seals at a specific orientation. The filter media is sized for the exact flow rate of that engine's oil pump and the exact micron particles it is designed to catch. Toyota engineers tuned these specs over decades. Aftermarket filters, even the famous brand names, often miss the specs slightly. Sometimes the bypass valve opens too early and lets unfiltered oil into the engine. Sometimes the anti-drainback valve fails after a few weeks and causes dry starts every morning. Sometimes the filter media is too restrictive and triggers premature bypass under cold conditions. You do not feel any of this. The car runs fine. But on a microscopic level, your engine is being slowly fed dirty oil at specific moments. Cold starts, high load merging, hot shutdowns. And every one of those moments is when wear actually happens. The OEM Toyota filter with the Toyota part number stamped on it is engineered to match the engine, bypass for bypass. It costs $5 to $7. It is one of the cheapest insurance policies in the entire automotive world. I cannot count how many owners I have met who spent thousands on premium oils while feeding their engines a $4 filter that was never designed for it. Put those three pieces together and you have the trick. 5,000 miles, hot drain, OEM filter. That is the entire formula. There is no secret additive, no expensive flush, no exotic synthetic blend you have to special order from overseas. The owners who hit 400,000 miles do not have magic. They have a checklist, and they follow it without negotiating with themselves. But there is a fourth piece that most people skip, and it is the one that turns a good maintenance routine into a great one. Viscosity. Toyota now specifies 0W16 or 0W20 on most modern engines. Those grades are not chosen because they protect best. They are chosen because they help corporate fuel economy averages by a fraction of a percent. The engineers who designed those engines will quietly admit, when nobody from corporate is listening, that a slightly thicker oil at high mileage protects better. Once a Toyota engine crosses 100,000 miles and the bearing clearances have opened up even microscopically, moving from 0W20 to 5W30 in hot climates is a common longevity trick. It is not for everyone, and it is not for newer warranty engines. But for that 387,000-mile Camry sitting in my bay, the previous owner had switched to 5W30 around 150,000 miles. The bottom end still does not knock. Now I have to say the thing I always say. None of this is a magic shield. If you let the oil run dry, no filter saves you. If you ignore a coolant leak, no viscosity choice helps. If your engine has a known design defect, no routine fixes the design. Maintenance protects healthy engines. It does not resurrect dead ones. And no, you cannot make up for years of 10,000-mile intervals by doing one perfect oil change today. Sludge that has already calcified onto the cylinder head will not wash off because you finally bought a Toyota filter. Damage that is already inside an engine is inside the engine. The trick works because it is done thousands of times in a row, not because any one change is special. What it does do is something subtle and powerful. It keeps the engine in the exact state it was designed to operate in. The variable valve timing actuators stay responsive because the oil galleries stay clean. The piston rings stay sealed because the oil does not coke onto them. The catalytic converter lives a longer life because clean combustion creates less unburned fuel. Fuel economy stays stable year over year because no internal component starts compensating for friction it should not have. The car ages, but it does not degrade. And that distinction is everything. So before you buy into another shop's pitch for an expensive engine flush, before you panic about high mileage, before you assume your Toyota is finally giving up, ask yourself the simple questions. When was the last oil change? How many miles since? Was the engine warm when it was drained? Was the filter an actual Toyota filter or something cheaper? Because 9 times out of 10, when an older Toyota starts to feel tired, the engine is not worn. It is suffocating on its own neglect. And the fix is not in a wrench, it is in a habit. The Toyotas that cross 400,000 miles are not lucky. They are loved correctly. They are owned by people who refuse to negotiate with the manual. And the trick they all share is so unglamorous, so cheap, and so easy that the industry has spent 15 years trying to convince you it is unnecessary. If this changed the way you think about oil changes, hit like so more Toyota owners see it. Subscribe if you want weekly breakdowns that protect your wallet and your engine. And if you have a Toyota over 200,000 miles that still drives like new, drop the mileage in the comments, because those numbers tell a story far louder than any manual ever will. The most expensive engine repair is not the one that breaks your car, it is the one that breaks your trust in a vehicle that was built to outlive you. And now you have the trick to make sure that never happens.